Okay, recording is starting. The review is go back a couple of weeks to an earlier meeting that we had in which we did a review of what a republic is. Since our government is a republic, you need to know what the definition of republic is. That's back there. And then it goes through the Constitution. Last week, we finished the Constitution all the way through Amendment 27. So today we're going to start with the Declaration of Independence. There are a few, well, actually, what I did want to, actually, before we do that, what I wanted to do is I wanted to say that it was suggested that after we finish this series, like next year, when we start next year, no, we'll finish this series up in sometime in December, and then we'll start back up. We can start back up again in January, and it was suggested that we would do the Federalist Papers.
And anti-federalist and
Now,
federalist.
here's the deal. Here's the deal. We also have the Anti-Federalist Papers.
Yeah.
Okay. However, here's the deal. The Federalist Papers is the sales for the Constitution. This is what sold the Constitution. So what, rather than trying to attempt, and I know, Marty, you talked about trying to kind of weave them together, and what does the Federalist Papers say about this subject? What does the Anti-Federalist Papers say about this subject?
Yeah.
That's fine. What I would recommend we do is we go through the Federalist Papers, and if anyone has looked through the Anti-Federalist Papers, looked through the Constitutional Convention debates, that's what this book is about here, is both the Anti-Federalist Papers and the Constitutional debates, to make counterpoints to what is in the Federalist Papers. I would be very happy to entertain them and to have our discussion be around that and that sort of thing. But I myself am not going to take every point that is made in the Federalist Papers and then try to go find something in the Anti-Federalist.
Who's the author of that Federalist Papers that you have? Because I know there's different versions of it.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I was about to get to this.
Oh.
This actually is the original language of the original of the original newspaper articles, essays that were in New York and in 1787, 1788. This is the actual original world language of it. And I always go back to this if I have a question, because there are other versions of it or other things of it, and this is the one that I like.
Oh.
It's called The Federalist Papers in Modern Language by Merriam-Webster.
Merriam-Webster, not Marion.
Merriam-Webster. So this is the book that I would like to go through. And when there is something that's in it that seems odd, because there are things in it that seem odd, then we go back to the original and we sort it out. And we figure out what word Merriam-Webster misunderstood. So that's what I would like to do.
Okay.
So those of you who would like to be a part of that, we can do that. I'm thinking about, because when I did do this for our local Constitution study group, I said, okay, anyone who wants to come to it, but I can't do it for free anymore because it takes too much time and all that kind of stuff. So I was charging at that time $5 a meeting. However, $20 a month, I think, is good. Now, Marty and Howard and so on are already doing that, and I appreciate your support. And so when we start doing this, of course, people will come and they'll join in, and we'll let them know that it is expected and customary that they would start sending me $20 a month for the honor of being of being in my presence. Right, Joel?
You're worth 40, John. I'm getting a deal.
I'm worth 40. Thank you, Howard.
I'm getting a deal, buddy. Thanks.
So anyway,
If not more.
that's well. Thank you, Howard. So all right. Well, anyway, that's just kind of mocking up the future, putting the future there. Because I would like to go through the Federalist Papers. I have not. I mean, when we went through them on the local one, we went through about the first 25 or something like that before something happened, and then we couldn't do it anymore. I don't remember what it was, but it was kind of interesting, and we'll just start doing it. We'll see how that goes.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Okay, so well, we're going to do the Declaration of Independence now. That's before there were any Federalist Papers. That's before there was a Constitution. That was before there was a republic or this flag for which it stood. We're starting right back from the beginning. Very interesting. I'm sure that almost any one of you could give me a little history leading up to how the Declaration of Independence was written. And would anyone care to do a brief, how did we get to the point where a Declaration of Independence had to be written? Anyone?
Well, it was too many rules and regulations from somebody that had no reality on what was happening in the Americas, and they were trying to enforce British laws on American British colonists that were oppressive, and the colonists tried to resolve, it wouldn't resolve, and so it finally led into this dissolution.
All right. Anybody have anything to add to that? Christian, you look like you're about ready to jump in. No? Okay.
Well,
I'm surprised, Christian.
Before I give it a stab, I would like to also study the Constitution of 1791 under the Confederated States Continental Congress. Those guys.
Articles of Confederation.
Yeah, that's. Thank you.
Articles of Confederation. Well, we have a choice since we haven't begun since we haven't begun that series yet. So I'm going to let everybody cogitate on that. We can do Federalist Papers. We can do
before we do Federalist Papers. I mean,
yeah, no, I know. That's what I'm saying, Howard. We have a number of weeks. Thank you for the suggestion.
Yeah.
If others want to do that, I'd be perfectly happy to do the Articles of Confederation. That'd be really cool. I'd like to do that.
Nice.
So we can do that. That doesn't get you out of $20 a month, though, Howard.
Of course not. Let's see. All right, here's my stab at this. The British Army had to fight the French and Indians in the French and Indian War. In Europe, it was called 7 Years' War. And Washington led the Virginia militia as auxiliaries with the vaunted English army. And the French and Indians dispatched them by using camouflage and concealment, and attacked them in a forest, and they were just pretty well wiped out. Washington was the only officer left alive, and he led the retreat. So the English had to defend their colonies, and they thought that it was only fair that the colonies should ante up for the grand services of the English army. So they began to impose a whole bunch of taxes on things. There was a tax on documents. If you wanted to There was a tax on tea. That's the most famous with the tea in the Boston Harbor. Um, there was pretty much, and a lot of smuggling going on too to avoid the taxes. God bless the free market or the black market, as you will. Um, so the colonies were getting kind of rowdy, and the British were getting more and more oppressive, and they sent an army and occupied Boston just to show the Bostonians who's boss around here. And there was a group, a very conspiratorial revolutionary group, the Sons of Liberty, and they had committees of correspondence. It was like the internet of the 1700s. So they began to make plans and stockpile things that they might need later, like guns and bullets and gunpowder. And the British frowned on that because they were the only uh, designated government force user. So they marched on. They one if by night and two if by sea. Paul Revere, all that. Dawson, a road to alert the people of Lexington and Concord, and so they did. Revere got caught, so it was really Charles Dawson who went forward and carried it on. So anyway, the lined up on a flat level plain. Maybe there was a bridge involved, and it was a standoff. And somebody fired first. We know not who. Probably wasn't me. I'm not responsible. But and the revolution was on, and the militia, the Massachusetts militia, inflicted serious damage to the British troops who retreated, and they missed catching. Who were those two guys? Members of the Continental Congress. I forget their names, but they were not. They were not captured and arrested. So
Samuel Adams and John Hancock were the two, and the British probably were not after them, but but Adams and Hancock were afraid they were.
well, good. So they got out of Dodge before the British showed up. Smart them. So anyway, that's my version.
Okay.
You're welcome.
All right. Good. So it is true that I think that the it was indeed the British were oppressive. However, the British believed they had good reason for it because because there was the 7 Years' War. It was between the British and the French. It was worldwide, and the British had it all strategized out how they were going to do it in India, and they were going to do it in Africa, and they were going to do it in all of these places, and leave North America to last. But George Washington went in there and stirred it up and made the British have to come to America before the British wanted to come to America. They spent a tremendous amount of blood and treasure saving our bacon so that we don't speak French these days. And then they said we wanted to pay for it, and so they started putting on taxes and so on, and the Americans didn't like that, and so it went back and forth. It culminated in an attempt for the British to come and seize weapons, which were at Lexington, and that's when the firefight began. That is also where it turned. There was an awful lot of. There were about half the people about a third of the people in the colonies wanted to become independent. About a third of them didn't, and about a third of them didn't care, which is kind of the way it is everywhere. And they, so that whole Lexington thing was in 1775. Things were brewing. In January of 1776, Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense, and in that book, he describes, he says, we really should become independent. And when we become independent, and then he would throw up straw men saying, well, there are those who say that we shouldn't be independent, and there are arguments, and then he would tear the arguments apart. And then he would say, well, so now everyone agrees that we should be independent. And so now that we're going to be independent, what are we going to do? Well, the thing that we really should do is we should make a declaration to the rest of the world to tell them why we're doing this, that we're not just a bunch of savages and cutthroats, that we're actually decent and honorable people, and that we are going to be responsible citizens of parts of the world. So we should make this declaration. And in this declaration, we should word it in this way. We should aim it towards this audience. We should talk about this, and we should talk about that. And we should, it should be this way. In July, throughout the colonies, this was a bestseller, runaway bestseller. And everybody had it in their house. And it became really, everyone thought that this was great, and that they should probably do something like this. And so when the Continental Congress met in May, one of the things they discussed is, well, should we do a declaration like Thomas Paine said? And it turned out, they decided they would. And in fact, if you read Common Sense and what it says this declaration should be, and then you read the Declaration of Independence, you see it matches almost. It's not word for word, but the ideas, what to cover, and the manner in which to deal with it is exactly the same. And when I first read that, when I first noticed that, I went, holy cow, it looks Thomas Paine is the one that really started. Well, then I read this really interesting book, which if you want to find out about the Declaration of Independence, this is a great book that you might want to get. It's called American Scripture. And it is by Pauline Mayer. I'm not saying everyone should go off and run and read it right now, but this is an excellent book, and she says, yes, a lot of people think that Thomas Paine was the impetus behind the Declaration of Independence. However, Thomas Paine was just he was just echoing what everybody else was saying. It wasn't, and this declaration that they did here was the first national one, which made it important. But the Mechanics Union of New York had done its Declaration of Independence. The town of Bedford, Massachusetts had done its Declaration of Independence. There had been all of these Declaration of Independences throughout the country already. So when this was written, it was nice because it was unifying, but it was considered to be just sort of, well, it's another declaration, just like all the rest of them. And in fact, at the time, because Thomas Jefferson was the one who originally penned it, and then they went and they changed his words and stuff like that, because they changed his words around when he like disavowed it. It's like he didn't want to be the one who wrote it, because it was, he didn't want to admit it because they had changed the words and had messed it up as far as he was concerned. However, by the end of his life, he was saying, I wrote the Declaration, man. Yeah, because in the intervening time, it had taken on this kind of mystical, magical sort of importance, and had become American scripture. It was kind of our scripture as a nation. So,
did he write life, liberty, and property instead of life, liberty, and happiness?
Originally, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And that was removed because people recognized, a number of people said, that's not going to play well in the courts of Spain and stuff like that, where they had outlawed slavery, and yet we still had slavery here, and people are considered property. And so they had to remove that because it was recognized it would not be politic even at that time. So they changed it. So they changed it to that. Okay. So if everybody's ready, we can start doing the Declaration of Independence. Anybody have anything else you want to say about it first? No?
But there, besides the taxes to pay for the war in Canada, weren't there also a lot of other grievances, such as the colonies were forced to buy certain goods only from England, and they were also then disallowing our own self-government that was basically guaranteed under, I'm going to call it the British Constitution, but whatever the rules of government were in England at the time.
Yep.
So it wasn't just taxes. There were a lot of other grievances, and there were so many people that actually had petitioned the king numerous times to roll some of these grievances back, and it was refused. So I mean, there were a lot of issues there, and even as we've learned, the housing soldiers in people's homes and things like that.
Exactly right. And in fact, yes, there's a whole list of grievances, and taxation without representation, which of course is the big one that we all learned about in second grade. And they say, oh, it's all about the taxes. It's all about the taxes, making it sound like it's just some kind of a financial grievance thing. It's not. It doesn't have anything deeper than that. It's actually in the list of 36 different, or 30, I think it's 35 or 36 grievances. Taxation without representation is down at number 17. There are 16 that are much more important.
Yeah.
They considered much more important, and they will be the ones that you were talking about, that you were just mentioning, and we will get to them.
We got liftoff, by the way. The shuttle just took off.
Okay.
Just FYI.
Hooray. Also, the British Parliament, what's the word? Repealed a lot of those taxes, just about all of them, but they left the tea tax just to prove that, hey, we have taxation over you guys, so deal with it.
Okay.
It was only tea that was left as a tax.
Okay, and they dealt with it.
Yeah, they did.
All right, so this is out of your favorite Constitution Study Guide, what you see on the screen. We're going to, in the Constitution, it describes 3 branches of government. However, there is back when I wrote this back in 1991, I went, oh, there is a 4th branch, which is actually superior to all of the other 3. And that is the people themselves. They are the ones who make the show. And I liked this little quote from Thomas Paine out of Common Sense. If you read any of my emails, I repeat this from time to time. Society is produced by our wants and government by our wickedness.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you want shoes, I want chickens. You have chickens, I have shoes. We trade. I want them, you want them. We go into society. We therefore communicate so that we can satisfy our wants. However, government is produced by our wickedness, because it is, I might try to steal your shoes or whatever it was, however that went. And that would be my wickedness, not giving to you what it is that is due. And therefore we have to have government. And then he says, the plain truth is, it is wholly owing to the Constitution of the people and not the Constitution of the government that the crown is not as oppressive in England as it is in Turkey. So it depends upon if the people are strong, if the people are moral, if the people are virtuous, the government will not be as oppressive. If they are wicked, if they are weak, if they want to be taken care of, the government can become oppressive. It is entirely. And he says here, and this the emphasis is in the original, it is wholly owing to the Constitution of the people. And the Declaration of Independence shows our who we are. It shows who we are. This is who they were, and kind of who we have to continue to be if we're going to continue as a country, I think. All right, and so that's my little introduction, and we'll go right into reading the Declaration of Independence. Howard, you're moving your microphone.
Sorry.
All right, this is all previous stuff. And then this talks about common sense and the pamphlet Common Sense and all. And then they wrote this declaration. So let's do a few words. Marty, what is the first word here?
Course of human events, the things that humans do, not the things that God or angels or demons do. It is the things that people do to each other.
Good. Teresa, what's the next one?
Declaration, saying something that you really mean. It is not just that you said it, but you declared it.
Good. Joel.
Impelled, to be forced into action.
And that was so short. You can do the next couple.
Station, the place where a person or state or group belongs.
Good.
Unanimous, everyone agrees.
Everyone agrees. Okay. All right. Howard.
All right.
Why don't you read just the text here in Congress down to the end of the text there?
Nice. In Congress, July 4, 1776, the unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation.
All right. So why are they writing this declaration?
As to why they are separating from England. And you notice that United States of America, United is not capitalized. We are states. It was the states of America all united.
That's right. That's exactly correct.
Wow.
At this point, 1776, there is no United States.
Were they actually called states at that time? Did they?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, they were. They went from colonies to states. When on July 2nd, the Lee Resolution declared that they were free and independent states, not colonies. They were states. That was July 2nd.
Okay.
Wow.
Cool.
So they're explaining it to the world.
They're explaining it to the world because they have a decent respect to the opinions of mankind. That's why they're doing this. That's why they're writing this thing. And in fact, it's exactly what Thomas Paine said. He said, you need to do that for this purpose, because you need to due respect to the opinions of mankind. And he called it in his book Declaration of Independence. Here, that's not the title of this particular
unanimous
document.
Declaration.
It's called the Unanimous Declaration. But everybody calls it Declaration of Independence because that's what Thomas Paine called it. All right. Moving on to the next piece. Well, we have more words. My goodness. All right, Christian, give me some words here.
Can you hear my mic?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Okay, great. Endowed, to be given a power or ability or quality.
Okay.
Declaration, saying something that you really mean. It is not just that you said it, but you declared it. Despotism, a totalitarian government, one that has total control.
Okay.
Deriving, getting something, obtaining it from somewhere else.
Okay.
Evince, or evinces, to prove beyond doubt, to show clearly.
Okay.
Just powers, the ability of a government which are correct are as they should be.
They are as they should be. Exactly right. All right. Evinces, to prove beyond doubt, to show something clearly. Can somebody give me an example, a sentence using the word evinces?
In a court of law, the prosecution needs to evince that the crime was in fact committed.
Good. Anybody have another one? Is that pretty good?
It's good.
The slap across the face with a glove evinces a duel.
Evinces a duel. Well, it certainly foretells a duel, but it proves, but it does evince a disregard or disrespect for the other person.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Everybody good with these words?
Yes.
All right. Next one is Joel. Why don't you? Let me see. I'm got a little lost.
We were on
Bob,
just
yeah.
powers, I think, is the next one.
Agree.
Just,
Right.
All right, go ahead.
just powers, the abilities of a government, which are correct, are as they should be.
Yeah, I think actually, Christian.
Yes, you're right. We did do that one. So pick it up on rights. A right,
Yeah, go ahead.
a right a person has and a power a government has are the same type of thing. Both are abilities. A government has an ability because the governed allow it, or if the government uses more weaponry over the dead bodies of the governed. In either case, its power is an ability. Likewise, the governed have certain abilities. Their rights may come from a natural ability, from agreement with others, or given government privilege over the dead bodies of others. An example of a natural right would be the pursuit of happiness. A person will, no matter how much force is applied against him, pursue happiness. It is in his nature to do so.
All right. That makes sense with everyone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It looks like Bob Zink has disappeared. Bob, are you still there? All right. It looks like he's disappeared for the moment.
Here it comes.
Oh, no, here he is. Here he is.
I see a
Bob,
hand.
you ready to read?
I'm still here, but we're in the midst of a power outage and I'm watching you on my phone. And it's very hard I look like I'm in the dark. Can you see anything?
Oh, no, I can see you. I can see you fine. And I do see that you're in the middle of a power problem.
Yes.
Do you want to just
Yeah,
kind of watch and not participate?
Yeah, well, I'll participate, but I can't read the letters on my phone, so somebody else will have to read that.
Yeah, okay, that's fine then. That's fine. All right, then we will move on. And I think Marty, you want to do those next three?
Sure. Transient, lasting only a short time, here today, gone tomorrow. Unalienable, cannot be taken away, cannot be separated from, cannot be made other. An unalienable right is something that you do because it is in your nature to do it. Usurpation, taking something unjustly by force.
Good. Any how about somebody use unalienable in a sentence?
I have the unalienable right to go outside and take a walk.
Okay, good.
Now, can you go over the difference between unalienable and inalienable? And
Yes, it was a printer's error.
so unalienable is the correct one, right? Unalienable.
Unalienable one is the one that was written. Inalienable is the one that was printed.
Okay.
Vice
Unalienable.
versa.
You think it was the other way around?
Yeah, right there on the page. Unalienable cannot be taken away. It's 2 words from the bottom.
No, right. We're
Yeah,
talking
that's
the difference between inalienable and unalienable. They get interchanged in the Declaration. And John said that this unalienable was the way it was handwritten, but when it was printed inalienable.
Right. It is considered in this American scripture book, it is called a printer's error.
So which is proper again?
They're both.
Un-
Both.
Okay. Okay.
Just the definition of in or on as a prefix. I mean,
Un would be not.
Yeah, it means
yeah, I mean, they probably synonymous,
yeah, they
basically.
are. They're the same. It's the same word. It's just the printer
Tomato and tomato.
misprinted it.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Here's a sentence with unalienable. People have inalienable rights of self-defense.
Good. Yes. And it means that that nobody can take that away from you. Even if they came and tried to take it away from you, you would defend yourself of doing it.
Right on.
All right.
Here's an interesting note on inalienable, by the way.
Yes.
In California, our Declaration of Rights, Article 1, Section 1, says that we have inalienable rights. And the California Supreme Court has ruled on that, and inalienable or unalienable, depending upon which one you'd like to use. Black's Law says it's something that the legislature can't take away from you.
Okay.
Can't be legislated away.
Nice.
Yeah.
That it can or cannot take away.
Cannot.
take
Cannot.
away.
And I use it in court quite a bit because the California Supreme Court's ruled on it many times, but so you got to go all the way back to the 30s on this stuff. But yeah.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Christian. That was good. If
Christian, are you a lawyer or a paralegal or?
You could say I'm a lawyer because a lawyer is one who studies law, but I'm not an attorney. I don't have a bachelor's degree, so I couldn't go back to school and get my law degree
license.
without spending an extra 4 years. So
Okay.
An Abe Lincoln lawyer.
Well, you're
right?
awesome. I just want to say,
thank you.
with or without credentials,
Technical.
awesome.
Yeah, and thank you very much. It's and the next time I try to define unalienable, I will probably say it's something that the legislature can't take away from you.
There you go.
All right, here we go. Now what we're going to talk about is these are now the things that we say as a people. It's who we are. It's our civil religion, as it were. And I don't know where we are in terms of reading. Teresa, perhaps?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, go ahead and just start reading and we'll see how far we get here.
Okay. The American civil religion. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
And you notice, thank you, and you notice that it's among these. This is not
Yeah.
an exhaustive list. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Yep, okay.
That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed.
All right, so now, why do we have governments? What are governments good for? Why do we have governments?
To protect our liberties and our properties.
That's correct. That's right, our unalienable rights, exactly right.
To secure our rights.
To secure our rights, exactly right. and their just powers come from the consent of the government.
So at this point in 1776, with this declaration, obviously the slaves did not have the right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So what was were they just ignored, or was what was there a viewpoint? I know there were some viewpoints, but it seems odd that they would be just told.
There were conflicting viewpoints. There were many people who said, no, they're people and they should have life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. They have unalienable rights just like everybody else. And there were others who said, no, they're property. They don't have any rights. And that turned into a huge conflict. That was a conflict right from the very beginning. It was never, it was not resolved for 70, 80 years.
Right.
So
So they basically were not considered men at that point. They were considered property.
they were property.
Can I interject there?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Remember, we had 13 independent colonies and 13 independent states.
Right.
And each state had its own viewpoint. So as a union, or to unite this, everybody's viewpoint had to be taken into account. What clause is it from the Constitution that is put there specifically to grab a slave and take him back to the state where he was enslaved? It's in Article 4, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is. That's right. But this is, I look at this as this is the ideal. This is what we aim for. This is what we believe to be true. This is what we want to be true. This is our ideal. This is what we're aiming for. And we don't always make it. In fact, we frequently do not make it. But
And there were quite a few free Black people
and there
in
were
America.
yes, and there were free Black people, and there were enslaved white people, and there were Black people
That's
who
right.
had enslaved others. There were,
Yeah.
in the South, there were
The
some.
first slave was owned by a Black guy.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Wow.
That's right.
Yeah, if you take slavery, I mean, you actually go back a couple thousand years, right? And there was the whole Barbary Coast thing and blah, blah, blah. So,
Slavery. Every time any group conquered some other group, they took the victims and turned them into slaves.
The plunder.
yeah.
I believe slave comes from Slavic anyways.
Fine
Could
heritage.
very well be. Could very well be.
It does.
All right.
One quick point. I
Yeah.
read an article in a Wall Street Journal many moons ago, several years ago, and this Hungarian, I don't know, PhD, was starved during the World War II. There wasn't a lot of food and rations in the occupied countries of Europe. And he was always very concerned about that. And one of the things he studied was that Black people are very tall and athletic and good physical prowess. His opinion was that they were well fed because their owners wished to have strong and effective servants. So they were, I mean, there's always bad apples, of course, but they were given good food and rations, and therefore over generations they grew to where they are the National Basketball Association and the National Football League.
Well, that can be looked at in a number of different ways, and I'd rather not go down that rabbit hole right now, because that could be looked at in a number of different ways. However, Christian, would you take up from here that whenever?
No.
Sure. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
Good, okay. So if a government fails to do this, secure the rights, if it fails to do that, then it is the right of the people to change it. That's that it's just, this is sort of an article of faith with it's the American idea. It's part of the American scripture. It's the American ideal. It's the way we think things should be. Okay. Next is Joel. I think you're at Prudence.
Prudence.
All right. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes. And accordingly, all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed.
Good. Okay.
That's so true.
Yeah, absolutely. If we think we can make it through, we'll make it through. How long can we stay locked down? Until the governor says we can get up? Well, all experience has shown that we're more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when?
But when, Howard, but when?
Okay. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism.
Okay. Now this is a lot of words and a lot of thought on this one. So you have to have a long train of abuses and usurpations. The guy he's supposed to do this, but he doesn't. He does that instead. He takes something that he's not supposed to take. It's a long train of them. It keeps happening and happening and happening. And the way it keeps happening, it becomes obvious that it's not just at random. There's an object that is being aimed for. There's something that we're trying to get to. And that has that all of these, that train of abuses and usurpations are designed to achieve this object, and the object is to reduce them to under an absolute despotism. Does that make sense? I mean, this is a powerful little piece of language. It says, it says there has to be a long train of them, and it's all headed in one direction. Make sense?
Yep. Happening now.
Exactly. Thank you, Marty.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, I'm sorry, who was reading?
Howard just finished. It is their right.
Continue.
I'll read on.
You're right. It is their
Okay.
right. You got this long train of abuses, Howard. Now what happens?
It is their right. It is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security.
Excellent. Okay. So, shoot, that's what we have. And they're saying we have achieved this, and we are now at this point. And we'll go back to Marty.
Where are we at here? Let's
Such
see.
has been.
Oh, such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessary which constrains them, is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government.
Good.
The
Okay.
history, go ahead.
Continue.
Oh, the history of the present king of Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world.
All right. So this is the complaint. This is the complaint, and now we're going to list off the specific things that have happened, which is the long train of abuses and usurpations. There's 35 of them. And I think what we're going to do is we are going to hold this off for next week.
Sounds like a deal.
Okay. And so we're going to pick up with the list of grievances next week.
Okay.
Great.
All right.
We got a couple of minutes. How can we resist the tyranny of today in 2020 with these governors imposing flawed
Tyranny.
remedies to the tyranny, to these flawed medical models or paradigms? It
Well,
is
the
ridiculous.
most effective way that can probably be done with is through the courts right now.
Mhm.
And that is all that I would recommend at this time.
The other way is to let your feet do the walking.
Or let your feet do the walking. Everybody move to South Dakota
Come to Florida.
or come to Florida.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
We have so much more
Listen.
freedom in California.
Listen, guys, Florida, I've been in Florida. I can't take the humidity. I'm sorry.
That's the biggest problem.
Oh,
Everything
well.
else is great.
Right.
Your friend John MacArthur is now up for contempt of court
Okay.
for not obeying the unjust.
Yeah, that's fine. He'll beat it. He'll beat it.
Well, I hope so. I hope otherwise they send police in to arrest all the members of his congregation. Yay!
That's been done before. That was done not there. That was done in Nebraska. I did a whole series of stories back in Nebraska in the early 80s, where the Nebraska state legislature had decided that you couldn't have any church schools anymore, and there were a number of churches that said, "No, we're going to have our education ministry. You can't stop us." They came and arrested. Particularly a friend. His name is Sullivan. And he spent some time in jail, but we got him released. Well, we didn't get him released. I mean, he ended up being released, but and it took a bit of work, but we got it turned around finally that they could have their education ministries. However, that was in the 80s, and since then I haven't followed it. Who knows what the teachers union has done, and back and forth and back and forth, and they keep at it, and we have to keep at it. There's a constant vigilance, constant willingness to fight back.
Right.
So,
Congratulations, that's fabulous, John.
and then, well, that was in the 80s. That was in the 80s, and John MacArthur will have the same. He will make it also. He will make it out also. Okay, I'm going to stop the share, and thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And we'll do the grievances.
Can
Great.
I ask you a question, John? I've just been sort of wondering if it's a quick answer. If it's too detailed, then we'll wait for another time.
Yeah.
On the definition of republic, I was emailing my brother-in-law about that. He had sent me a video about what is a republic, right?
Oh, is that the one with the guy that sounds like he's from New Jersey?
I don't remember. It was actually a pretty good video.
Okay, yeah. All right.
And what it said had truth to it.
Okay.
It just, anyways, so I was explaining what you had said, but I couldn't give a reference. I couldn't say, oh, I told him about the what's his name, Polybius 2,000 years ago, the historian,
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. But then I looked on Google for the definition of republic, and all of them pretty much went along with what this video showed,
Yeah.
which was quite incomplete, and it didn't mention yours. And so I was like, well, at this point, it's like, way, I'll take it on faith, you know what I mean? I trust you and I get it, but you know, is there like some other exact reference or something? Where it's
The exact reference um, is Aristotle. Go back to Aristotle, which is what's in my What is a Republic book. I talk about his thing, and if you wanted to go back and read his entire book Politics, I think it's in book 8 of his book Politics. Um,
Oh,
that
okay.
he talks about all the different forms of government, and it's uh, the whole thing is rather lengthy. But if you wanted to give your see, I have gotten in the last week, 2 weeks maybe, I have gotten a lot of emails from a lot of different people showing this particular video that came out about it was about 15 years ago or so, and it's called Different Forms of Government, or the American Form of Government, and it talks about oligarchy, it talks about monarchy, and it does a very good definition of oligarchy. It does a very
Mm-hmm.
good definition of monarchy,
Maybe.
and then it says that what republic is it's ruled by law. And I have to write back to all of them. I say, rule of law is a product of a republic. Republic, that does not define what a republic is. It is like trying to describe a house and describing the barbecue in the backyard. You have to go through the house to get to the barbecue. You have to go through republic to get to the rule of law. And yes, you can tell, yes, you have a republic because you have rule of law. That will show you, yes, you have a republic, but it is not how you make a republic. It merely shows you that you have a republic. And
Yeah.
and actually the house and the barbecue is usually a pretty good analogy. People kind of get that you have to go through it to get to that.
Okay.
And that's really the only real problem I have with that particular video, is that it never does define. And in fact, when I first watched it like 15 years ago, I was still hunting around for what's the definition of republic. So I was looking to it to tell me what the definition of republic was. And I saw, and I went, well, rule of law, okay, I can see that's part of it, but it never told me what rule of law was. That was the same problem that I had when I read The Republic by Plato, which you would think, here's a book, it's called Republic. You'd think it would define what a republic is, but it doesn't. What it has is a lot of back and forth and conversation about what is justice, and then what are different forms of government, starting with what Plato considered to be the perfect form of government, which was an aristocracy, the philosopher kings, which of course he would think was the best form of government because he was a philosopher. He would think philosophers, of course, would be the best rulers. And then from there, it degrades into this and degrades into that, degrades into democracy, and then degrades into a tyranny. And he shows the whole how they all degrade into each other and how that falls apart and stuff. But he never defines republic. He didn't know what one was. Aristotle is the first one to actually describe what, hey, Bob Zink got his power back.
Woo-hoo!
Right.
Yeah, we did.
You guys want to know what the Supreme Court declared a republic is?
What?
Yes.
Okay, it's a paragraph here, and it's from R.E. Duncan, so it's 1891. It says, by the Constitution, this is a republican form of government, so it's a little off. By the Constitution, a republican form of government is guaranteed to every state in the Union, and the distinguishing feature of that form is the right of the people to choose their own officers for governmental administration and pass their own laws in virtue of the legislative power reposed in representative bodies, whose legitimate acts may be said to be those of the people themselves. But while the people are thus the source of political power, their governments, national and state, have been limited by written constitutions, and they have themselves thereby set bounds to their own power as against the sudden impulses of mere majorities.
Yeah, and that's a paragraph that is also used by Professor Nadelson in his. He has a really good, and I'm not going to say really good, but a very lengthy article on Republic. But he does basically the same thing, Christian, that paragraph says, which is that it is representatives of the people, which means it is what he's talking about there is a representative democracy. He's not talking about a republic. He's talking about a representative democracy. A republic, as the founders understood it, was the republic that they learned from Aristotle, and in that Aristotle called it a constitutional polity, and very specifically he said it's a mixture of the three other forms of government. It's got to have a piece of democracy to it. It's got to have a piece of monarchy to it. It's got to have a piece of aristocracy to it. And these three branches work together within the bounds of the Constitution, which defines how they work together. And that is this is, you know, as I say from time to time, if I am remembered 500 years from now, I want it to be as the guy that restored the definition of republic.
I was going to say, is it safe to say that in modern times, you have created the succinct, true definition of what is a republic in a comprehensible form to the layperson? So you would be source on that.
I appreciate that, Teresa. I wish I could clone you about 100 million times.
Okay, but you get it from your studies going back to Aristotle. Now, did the founding fathers, do you know if they knew that factoid, that history going back to Aristotle when they created it?
Yeah, and
where did they get it from?
yeah, because they studied Aristotle. They studied Plato. They studied these guys. They were well read.
They were educated back then.
You know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to give my brother-in-law a reference if it comes up, and also with any other people. Because for me to say, oh, this guy John Chambers came up with, I can get challenged on that. Well, who is John? You know how people are.
Well, just toss the book to him. Toss the book to him.
What, right. Okay. Well,
and the thing is, they can either see it or they can't.
Yeah.
It's like,
okay. Well, this is why I'm asking, though, just to get some clarification of where this is coming from.
Yeah. Well, that it goes back to Aristotle. Christian is looking something up, and he's about to correct me on something.
No, I'm just curious because I know that the writers or founders spent a lot of time acknowledging Emer de Vattel and the called The Law of Nations. It was written, and I was just curious if there was something on it in this book. And I have the book, but
yeah, I have it too. I don't think there is, because in the Law of Nations, what he talks about is what makes a nation a nation. He doesn't talk about the government itself. He just talks about what makes a nation a nation. It has to have boundaries. It has to have, it has to be able to tell what comes across the boundary and what leaves the boundary and stuff like that. That's book one. Book two is when it communicates with other nations, how they should do it. Book three is if you want to go to war with another nation, how you do that. And book four is how you is once you want to conclude a peace, how you do that. And it doesn't get into what the forms of government are there. Because believe me, everything I read, I look for that.
excellent.
Teresa, do you
Teresa,
have
that was a
John's-
great, Teresa, that was a great question.
Yeah, but certainly
Thank-
Christian, that's a good book to read or at least glance through, because it's pretty hefty reading.
Yeah.
Teresa,
All
do
right,
you
guys.
have- Do you
Thank you.
have John's book?
Next week.
Do you
Yeah.
have John's book? What is a republic?
Yeah,
I
Do you
have it.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, I believe that, and it makes sense. I just kind of wondered, what do you tell people that are very dumb, let's face it, okay?
well,
And they say, well, no, that's not true. Look at the dictionary, blah, 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 blah. And then I'm supposed to say, a person unknown to them, no, this guy says it's blah,
well,
How do
well, listen, Teresa, Aristotle is unknown to them also.
I'm not saying that they're correct at all. You know what I'm saying?
I know you're not. I know you're
Yeah.
not. And
I just-
you know, explain it as best you can.
Yeah.
And if they can't get it, they can't get it. And,
Right.
And we are hobbled. I mean, we are supposed to be, listen, this is our republic. We're supposed to be creating this republic. If people do not understand what a republic is, they can never create it. This is why we're in the
Yeah. Yeah.
We have this
Teresa,
misunderstood.
one of Aristotle's most famous quotes goes like this: "Stupid is forever."
All right, listen, I'm signing off with that one. I can't top that.
Thank you.
All right, see you guys all later.
Bye. Thanks.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.